All right. Welcome to Radio Yo-Yo, everyone. I'm here. I'm Jake Bullock. I'm here with Trevor as usual.
Hi.
And we have a special guest today. Are you a founder of Scales?
Uh, Not really. It's
Sure.
it's tricky. It's tricky. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm an
Well,
early member.
early member of Scales, prominent member of Scales. I would call you like team captain of Unparalleled.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
right.
know. Yeah. And his name's Colin Beckford. Welcome to the show, Colin.
Thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you for coming. Um, Before I even get into it with you, I just want to say two personal things from my point of view. When I got back into yo-yoing in like 2015, 16, Tyler invited me down to his grandparents. He had like a yo-yo summit. It was like you and Isaac Sams. I forget who
Yeah,
else
Bergie
was.
was there too. Joe,
Bergie.
I think. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Joe, Bergie. It was really cool. And that was the first time I had hung out with anyone since like 2009. And I just remember you were incredibly welcoming and polite. And it was just really nice to have someone who was on top of their game. You were like at your peak, I would say, yo-yo wise, like getting on recess, competing. And it was just cool to have the younger generation, someone from it recognize me and be nice to me. It felt good. You know what I mean? So I always remember when I think of you, I remember that. And I also remember the time on Facebook that someone had posted something about like opioids and shit. And I mentioned in a comment that I was like, had struggled with that and was a recovering addict. Some fucking European creep was like, you you really shouldn't have put that out there, dude. Now my whole view of you has changed. And I just remember you came to my defense, and that was really nice that someone was like, dude, you know who you're talking to? Like fucking stop
Yeah,
with that
man.
shit. Yeah, so those are two things that I'll never just really meant a lot to me that you did. So
Happy to hear that.
yeah, it was nice.
Glad
But
I can make a good impression.
yeah, absolutely. Um, so let's just get right into it. I know you're from Ohio, but I don't know how you got started yo-yoing originally.
Yeah. So I grew up in Cleveland, and if I don't know if you're familiar, maybe not, since you may not have been yo-yoing so much, but like when I started yo-yoing in 2011, the story of me getting into yo-yo was like I was just like watching TV one day, and I actually saw Grant Johnson on like one of the Sweet Life TV shows with the Sprouse Brothers, and he was like yo-yoing on this cruise ship, and I was like, oh, that's pretty sweet. Like maybe I should get a yo-yo. So my mom had taken me to some sort of convenience store. I bought a yo-yo, and I came to find out through looking online that there was a yo-yo club in Cleveland, which is pretty rare for that time, especially um, like especially given the fact that it was like a brick and mortar store. Like
This
there were
was
just
what
yo-yos
year
for
again?
sale.
2000,
2011.
2011. Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
and the Cleveland Yo-Yo Club, it opened like probably 2008. It was started by people like I don't remember who specifically started it, but like Steve Brown, Brandon Jackson, and Perry Prine, the Mod Father, were all like very like prominent people involved in getting that up and running. Um, so yeah, I started in 2011 by going to that yo-yo club. Met twice a week, which was honestly really cool, like
That's
Wednesdays and
crazy.
Sundays. So I got a lot of exposure into like learning tricks from other people in person very, very frequently. Players like Darnell, Jamario Simmons, like a lot of very talented yo-yoers would go to the yo-yo club, and I definitely owe a lot of my credit as to like getting good relatively quickly through that, because being able to yo-yo with people in person, let alone as consistently as that, like really impacts, I feel like, your progression.
Yeah, twice a week is huge, dude.
Yeah, it's honestly crazy to think about in retrospect. I'm very lucky
Right.
for that.
Yeah, and it really is. I had one person near me who yo-yoed, but I had to go to contests, and like it's still to this day. After I go to a contest, I get very refreshed on yo-yoing and have a lot easier time learning new stuff and coming up with stuff. So the more you have in
Yeah.
person, the better, I think. So you probably got, how long did it take you then to get onto Duncan after you started?
Oh, so I started in May 2011, and pretty much from the jump, I was like a very like devoted Duncan fan. Especially given like me being in Cleveland, Duncan being out there. seeing Brandon so frequently, and even people like Isaac Sams going up to Yo-Yo Club every so often since he was relatively close, I definitely became a fan of Duncan just like off rip. And I got on the team in fall of 2014. So like 3 years of just like, repping Duncan, being a young kid. Took me a while, but yeah, I got on Duncan after 3 years or so.
Yeah, 3 years isn't bad. That sounds about right
Yeah, I feel like for the time, it's like,
for the time. That's normal.
yeah,
I guess
mhm,
nowadays kids get so good so quick. Like Zach Finch is a
yeah,
good example. He in under a year he was sponsored and became like incredibly proficient, but he's sort of an outlier, I think.
for
Most
sure.
people you need at least like 2-3 years under your belt before I think you should even be thinking about sponsorship.
Exactly. Yeah. And especially for a brand like Duncan, like they don't just sponsor anyone. You need to like,
No,
they need to know that you're like a good representative and all of that. So it made sense.
that's huge. So you had the Steve Brown and Cleveland connection, and you had Isaac Sams, you said. So did you
Mhm.
just sort of talk? Isaac was already, he got on before you then?
Yeah, Isaac was on Duncan when I started yo-yoing, pretty
Oh,
much.
wow. Okay.
Mhm.
So you were just like sort of talking to him, like, did let him know you were interested, or did it just happen?
It was, I would say the relationship was primarily between me and Brandon. Like he was the one that was at Yo-Yo Club pretty much every time a club was happening. He lived close to the storefront and all of that.
Right.
He was the one that was like kind of like he would like give me yo-yos earlier on before I got on the team, just like as a nice like gift and whatnot. So yeah, it was he obviously knew I was a fan of the brand and that he was kind of like giving me sort of like reassurance, I guess, that like it'll happen someday and it's just like time will tell. So yeah,
Nice.
mainly Brandon.
How were you around? I'm sure you were when the giant break-in and stealing of all the yo-yos
Yeah,
happened.
I remember. Yeah, I think Tyler was talking about it on. It might have been
Yeah.
my goods interview or some other podcast episode, but yeah, I remember that very specifically.
Did you hear about that, Trevor?
Yeah, yeah. I remember hearing that story when I went to Worlds in 2019,
That
I
story
think.
is insane. And then Brandon like tracked him down through like Craigslist
Yeah,
or something,
Yeah.
and they did
they
like
were
a
not very discreet about it. I feel like it was pretty
that
easy for him to
that's
crack. I don't
insane
know.
to just post like I have a shitload of yo-yos I just stole for sale. Like who wants to buy them? That is insane. But yeah, they did like a sting operation out of McDonald's or something.
Yes, I remember this now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're on Duncan, and you said you had Darnell around influencing your tricks. What were some other like super early, just the guys at the club basically? Influence.
Like inspirations,
Yeah.
yeah, primarily like Isaac Darnell. I think at the time Harold Owens was also a pretty big inspiration because the year I started yo-yoing was pretty much the year he like took over and blew up.
Yeah.
Like he in 2011, I think he got sponsored by Yo-Yo Factory, won nationals, and had like he won Ohio States as well. That was my first contest. So like the first contest I
Mm.
go to, I see him win, and I obviously knew he was very talented. So another favorite player early on.
Interesting. Yeah. And I can see that that's a solid crew of people to be influenced by. So it
Mm-hmm.
makes sense that you went the direction you did. Um, so what was your first competition you competed in?
2011 Ohio States. It's crazy. I did my first freestyle like 2 months into yo-yoing, which
Wow.
I don't like in retrospect. I mean, I didn't really care. I was a kid. It was just like to have fun thing.
Yeah.
It is pretty funny to think about though, because I did just like a 2 minute freestyle, and I definitely did not have like 2 minutes of tricks by any means. Like I had just learned like Matrix or something for reference. So
Oh,
I was
damn.
kind of just like having fun, and I honestly like it was a fun time competing, and I didn't get last place, so that's cool, I guess.
Is it,
Yeah. So first contest Ohio State's 2011.
nice. Is that online anywhere?
Yeah, that video's online.
Oh, nice. I'll have to check that out. And okay, so how about first time you competed and you like made a freestyle?
Yeah. So I didn't compete after that in 2011 because there wasn't a ton of like I was very new to yo-yoing. My parents didn't really understand the whole idea of like driving out to yo-yo contests outside of the state or anything just yet. Um, but as I kind of like steadily got better and my parents got a bit more educated about it, the next summer I competed a bit more. So um, I guess the next contest was 2012 Indiana States, and Indiana State was like a really interesting contest because they ran their event as like a bracket. So there was like a prelim, and then they took like 16 to this bracket, and then you did like a 1 minute against someone, and then another freestyle. So I guess that was like the next contest or first contest I actually like prepared for relatively seriously. Um, and I did pretty good. I remember doing really well in prelims, and I probably like made it past the first round and got top 8 or so. It's hard to remember, but that was probably like my first time competing and seeing myself get a pretty solid result. And then I think like a month later, I competed at Mid-East Regionals and got 7th place there. And that was honestly like probably like my first like, okay, actually this is like a good result. Like I did an actual freestyle to music that I was able to pick out, and I did well. I think I even like qualified for nationals that year. So early
Wow.
on, I kind of like, yeah, I always like, I was very competition driven when I started out, and not really like when I just started out, but as the years went on. And it was nice to see like results come relatively quickly for only yo-yoing for like a little over a year.
Was there anything else in your life, hobby wise or like sports wise, that was competition oriented, or like video gaming or anything like that? Or was
Yeah, it's
yo-yoing sort of the first competition thing you got into as a kid?
no. So before yo-yoing for a few years, I was playing basketball.
Okay.
I was a little kid, so it's not like I was like
Right.
crazy talented or anything, but it was just like some YMCA league thing. And I think in addition to it being like a competitive driven thing for both basketball and yo-yoing, and basketball as well as yo-yo, I was very like researchy and like stats driven. Like I would always like want to know like who's on what team and like what players are good and all of like this
Okay.
info. And as soon as I started yo-yoing, it was kind of the same deal where I just kind of became a sponge. I watched like a ton of yo-yoing, and even as I like got better at yo-yo, that was always a thing. Um, Early on, like I would go out of my way to watch a bunch of like international yo-yoing, like Japanese players, all of that. So I think in addition to myself being like competitively driven, I also just like kind of like to absorb as much as I can about a field.
That's interesting. That to me is sort of, we'll get into scales, but that's sort of like almost origin of some scales type stuff, I
Yeah,
think, with
kind
the
of.
stats and how much you know about all the different players. Cause I'm always impressed how many, especially the international players, you're aware of and you like
Hmm.
know their names and know their stats. So interesting. Okay. At some point you leave Duncan, right? Do you go straight from Duncan to recess in 2015 or?
Yeah, I did. The Duncan situation was tricky. I spent, like as I mentioned, I spent like 3 years really trying to get on this brand with people that I looked up to. Like at that time, Brandon was in charge of the team and all of that. And then right before I joined in 2014, Augie Fash got hired at Duncan, but he wasn't exactly like the team manager at that point. It was kind of like he was working in sales or some other field.
Right.
So Brandon was still in charge of the team. And then like I had gotten on the team, and then a few weeks later, Brandon got fired from Duncan, which kind of led to a bunch of restructuring. Augie took the helm as team manager, and then Duncan informed him that he needed to cut off like 75% of the team. That's when all those
Damn.
like legends got kicked off.
Oh,
So
that's
Yeah.
right.
yeah, and so that was like early 2015 when a bunch of people got kicked off. And like kind of like at that point, like I definitely was less invested in the brand because, the one person I looked up to throughout the whole process got fired from the company. Like all of these
Mm-hmm.
people I looked up to weren't on the team anymore. It was just kind of like it was like an identity shift for Duncan, and I didn't really know where I stood in things, especially being really like the only kid on the team or one of very few kids on the team. It's a weird situation. And Duncan treated me very well. Don't get me wrong. I say all that to say they're a great sponsor, and I would recommend them to anyone really. But at some point in like that time period of me being on Duncan, Tyler had reached out to me and he let me know he was starting a brand, and we started talking a bit, and he pretty much offered me a spot on the team, and I took it. So I ended up leaving Duncan after Worlds 2015 in September, and then went straight to recess.
Recess was stacked in the beginning, man. It was
Yeah, it
you and
was.
Kieran.
Yeah, even like when I first got offered for the team, it was like Tyler's like, yeah, I'm starting this brand. Kai is joining, Patrick Borgerding is joining, Ian Johnson's joining. So like I'm being offered for this spot on a team with a bunch of very well-known yo-yo players. Like I honestly, it's funny. Prior to that, I had never really talked to Tyler in any regard, really.
Right.
So for him to like reach out to me and like pretty much like tell me that like he thinks I'm like a great player and like thinks that I have potential like that, it really meant a lot. And I like jumped at the opportunity. So yeah, it was
Tyler
like a really. Go ahead.
Sorry, he has an insane eye for yo-yo talent.
Yeah, for sure.
He's always predicting people years ahead, and then like you see what happens, and he's always
exactly
right.
Yeah. So I definitely like felt like it was a great opportunity, and I went for it.
Nice. Okay, so you're on recess. That's when I met you, and you said recently in Discord that 2016 was one of your favorite years in yo-yoing. You think that for yourself personally?
Yeah, it was a good year. I went to a bit more contests that year. And that was like when I like kind of like I guess through joining recess, I met like a new group of people like you, for instance. So like when going to like Virginia States, I met a bunch of people that I didn't really get to talk to before. So like felt like a really good year socially for me. And in addition to that, the contests I went to, I felt like were just like very fun. Like Worlds in Cleveland was a great year that first time. Nationals in LA. Not only was it a good time, but I also like placed the highest I ever had at US Nationals. I got third that year. So all in all, just like it was a great year socially, and I feel like I set goals for myself and I accomplished them, which felt good.
Nice. Now somewhere in here is when scale starts going, right?
Yeah. And I guess to give like a quick introduction to how that formed.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think, let me get the timeline straight. So end of 2014, there was that Las Vegas Open competition for like North America, and Kai won like out of nowhere. Kai had like this insane freestyle. Like I don't think anyone like I don't really think anyone thought Kai like I guess he wasn't really a contender. Like he didn't go to nationals right before that. Like he wasn't really like, when I feel like people like Andrew Mader or like Curdy or someone, like they were like, you know, doing really well at contests leading up to it. But Kai kind of just came out of nowhere and clearly had the best freestyle and won.
That was like the basketball one, right?
Yep.
He's wearing like the Miami Heat jersey.
Yep. And he did like one throw all regions, like honestly insane.
Yeah.
Difficulty wise. And then like a month later, so I guess start of 2015, it's funny, Bergie reaches out to me, and Bergie and I also joined recess together later on in the year. But like before that, I had never really talked to Bergie as well. So Bergie reaches out to me and he tells me like him and Kai are starting this thing called Scales, where it's like a group of people who want to work together and like be the best at competition. So like Bergie reached out to me for that. I mentioned like we should get Kieran involved, since I thought Kieran was a great player and he was one of my closest friends at the time, still is. Additionally, we got Zoff. Bergie was really close with Zafran, so Zoff was involved. Nehemiah as well. Another one of my close friends at the time. I thought he was super talented and he was pretty competitively driven. So that was kind of like the core group we started off with. And that 2015 year, I definitely attribute like a lot of my competitive improvement to them. And I'm really thankful, honestly, for Bergie reaching out to me and like sort of like involving me in that. Because like I feel like I like really gained like like all of those guys are still my friends to this day. We're super close, and it's nice that we were able to sort of like encourage each other to be the best players we can be competitively. And it's kind of like I think like in retrospect, like I know people have kind of like clowned us, and even myself have like sort of like addressed this before. Like we took competitive yo-yoing really seriously, and I think you could argue it had some effect on like how people approach competition now. But like It was still like, what was it?
Oh, I just said totally.
Oh yeah, exactly. Like it's like a no-brainer, whatever.
Yeah.
But, like, at the time, like it was honestly like stuff we were really interested in, and we were like figuring it out for ourselves. And
Yeah.
it was just it was a good time.
Yeah, to bring it back to like sports, it reminds me of like Daryl Morey with like the Rockets, where like he's like he's this super analytics driven numbers guy, and even like Moneyball, like baseball stuff. So yeah, like you mentioning just being super into sports and players and stats and stuff, that totally makes sense. Just that's kind of what
Yeah,
scales is.
right. Especially like
Analytics.
when we first started out, like that was like we were like super like numbers heavy, and like it was probably overdoing it in retrospect, but like we got good results out of it.
Yeah.
Like before I joined Scales, like fall 2014, I went to nationals for the first time, and I didn't make finals despite like doing really well. And then like the next summer at Worlds, I made it all the way to finals from wildcard. And I always sort of like use that time period as like a reference point as to like how quickly I was able to sort of improve based on feedback from close friends like that. I feel like it's really rare in yo-yoing. Obviously, not a lot of people take it that seriously, but it kind of just always like told me like you can accomplish a lot if you work together with people. So that was a cool lesson to learn.
The scale stuff fascinates me. So early on it was obviously a lot of filming yourself and having each other click it, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Because you were all familiar with the judging system. But then you also like Bergie, correct me if I'm wrong, but is it abs or ABS, that like
yeah,
style of yo-yoing? Like he sort
yeah.
of came up with that, right? And
Hmm.
then you guys all like sort of developed that together a little bit. And that has
Yeah,
100% become something that's in like every freestyle.
dude, it's honestly like so funny to think about. It's like it gives it. It's honestly like a huge mix of emotions for me. Like on one point, it's like really, really like interesting slash cool to see like how much of an impact specifically Birdie, like I feel like the breaking point of competitive yo-yoing was when Birdie got second in Iceland,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
like he was like yo-yoing like that style for like a year or two leading up to Iceland, but like it was kind of like the culmination of like him going clean, him having good
Yeah.
musicality, and it all come together and him getting a good result. And like people realize like, wow, you can just like do tricks like this and it's broken, like it just does really well. But also it's like I can't deny that it's just funny to see like how like it's like overdone to a certain extent. Like I'd be lying if I said that I enjoy watching a lot of freestyles, because like a lot of people
Of
are kind of
course.
just like recycling the same tricks. And like
Right.
at the time, like Birdie was like coming up with a lot of these sequences and like trick ideas, but like I don't know, it's definitely like an interest. Like I feel like very few players or like things like that have like had that significant of an impact in yo-yoing. Like I feel like Jensen also had a really big impact in the early 2010s with how he yo-yoed.
Yeah.
It's just rare to see things like that, but yeah, definitely interesting times.
Yeah, Jensen, and for me it was John Ando. I think that
Yeah,
when he won Worlds, like that took everyone from doing the like standing in one place and looking down at your hands, because even Yuki was like earlier Yuki was very tech, just like in
right,
front
like
of
a
his.
yo-yo in a box pretty much.
Yeah.
Yes, and but Ando, I think like for zoning and things like that, and also just showmanship, completely changed the game. And then Jensen sort of refined that. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, Bergie, I watched that freestyle from Worlds of Bergie the other day, and it like makes me want to cry. It's so beautiful. I just love.
yeah,
I love
yeah,
seeing Bergie too, just because I've known it's wild. Like Bergie is like your guys' age, or maybe a little older, but
yeah, as a few years older than
he's
me, but
been around like so much longer. Like I don't know what year he
mhm.
started, but it has to be like '07 or oh,
Earlier I feel like, yeah,
yeah,
Yeah.
probably
because
'05 or something
I
crazy.
probably met him in '06, '07, and he was
Yeah,
so little. And then just the fact that he stuck with it and like could get second at work, like it's just the coolest thing.
yeah, I'll always be so happy about that. Like even
Yeah.
like from my perspective, like I didn't know him when he was super young, but just like when I started yo-yoing, like I feel like it was like very common knowledge that Birdie was like a top three yo-yoer in the country probably, and like he always had it in him to do really well, but things like nerves or just
Yeah.
random instances of not doing well enough like kind of stopped him. So I'm glad he was like able to accomplish something to that degree. He deserves it.
It's insane. Yeah. So I don't know. I just can't get the scales is so interesting to me. And you sort of have refined it. You're less competition yourselves oriented now and more
Mhm.
running contests and things. When was your first scales contest that you guys threw?
It must have been at the end of 2018. So I feel like the transition from like us starting out to where we are now is pretty interesting. I feel like we took competition pretty seriously for like a good 2015, 2016. And then at the end of 2016, Bergie and Mark really wanted to start a podcast. So like we started the Skills podcast, like they interviewed a bunch of people. And then we transitioned to doing YouTube live streams in probably early 2018. And then like given our growth with like the YouTube live streams and all, we decided like, hey, why not just do an online contest? So that's how that came about. Pretty much through like us getting better at media content over the years. And yeah, end of 2018, we did our first online contest. We've probably done like 7 now, which is kind of crazy in that amount of time.
Yeah, wow.
Have you ever competed in any of the scales, Trevor?
No.
No.
Trevor, oh wait, Trevor, sorry, I thought you were
No.
asking me. I was like,
No, not you. Yeah.
Oh, that would be hilarious if Colin was like, "Nah, dude, Trevor never has." No, I
keep
haven't
tabs,
though.
bro. I keep tabs.
I haven't. No, I haven't competed since. I think the last time maybe it was like the United Yo-Yo contest, which was like, um, it was the regional for like Missouri.
It's like the Kansas States or whatever.
Yeah.
The contest, yeah.
But the name of it is hilarious. It's like
It is. Yeah.
United Yo-Yo contest.
I've never even heard of that. That's weird as hell.
I think they did it once or twice.
Mhm.
But
I gotta do the over 30. I was all set to do the
You
last
should.
one and I broke my fucking
I was gonna
pinky.
say you broke your wrist or something.
So
Yeah.
such bullshit, dude.
Next time.
So Brian Koski got it, but that would have been fun to try to. Brian's gonna
Beat
whip my
Brian.
ass anyway, but Brian's sick. So let's do a little segment here. Trevor came up with a segment called "Click It or Stick It," which is we're gonna give you like the name of just random players. It's kind of hard to explain. This isn't a fully fleshed out concept, but Trevor thought.
I forgot that I brought this up.
He thought it was interesting. He thought it would be interesting to hear like your opinion, since you're a qualified world level judge. How do you think someone like Mikhail Tulabut, for example, how his tricks today would score in competition? Because he's sort of a perfect example. He's had the same style forever, and his shit is so timeless, and everyone knows it's good yo-yoing. But in a competition standpoint, off the top of your head, how do you think he would do if he went clean and hit his tricks?
I feel like, and like, this kind of like applies to like all of the names. It's like very like conditional, because like when you mentioned Mikhail's name, I agree with all of that. I was just talking about it a few days ago. Like he's insane still.
Yeah.
There's players that yo-yo like Mikhail that like do well in competition. Like when I think of that, I think of like Arata. He has like a very like robust style, like a ton of like really weird amounts and stuff, and like he's done well at like contests. Like he made world's finals recently and all of that. So I would say like it's possible for Mikhail to do well, but I think like it may be an issue of like how the judge like analyzes his tricks, and like I think like some judges are a lot more rigid in thinking than others. Like I think maybe like personal bias, like a judge like me, like I'm a technical player, like I would give a lot of like high value to a lot of tricks Mikhail does, because like I know they're difficult and out of the box and all of that. But I wouldn't be surprised if other judges saw his yo-yoing and are like, he's not doing anything, like this is BS, whatever.
Yeah, like if Dazzling Dave was on the panel.
Yeah, something
Perhaps.
like that. Yeah.
Interesting. Someone else worded it better than me in one of the questions we got. It's from what's this guy's name? Kagani Kagan Yilmaz, he's the 2-time Turkish national champion, apparently. He
Wow.
asked, how do you find balance between flow and technicality? And that's sort of like a watered down, like flow and technicality, but there is something like you have good taste in yo-yoing. There's no other way to put it. And you can like recognize what good yo-yoing looks like. And I think that does come down to something like flow and technicality being put together in a way that just works, because everyone knows there's like tech players that are so tech that it doesn't really work.
It doesn't look good. Yeah.
It doesn't look good. And then there's really flowy players that don't have much
Who aren't
substance and
doing
don't have it.
anything.
So it's like it really is finding like a balance. And I think you have a perfect balance of that. And
Thank you.
Kieran.
Mhm.
And like, so I don't know. That's kind of a broad question. How do you find that balance? But like, do you have anything to speak on the balance at all?
Yeah, it's a good question, honestly. I feel like I think it's like when you look at it top down, it's the flow specific thing isn't as much of a factor, is in my opinion at least. Like the flow comes with the way you design your tricks.
That's
Like
great. Yeah.
the way, and like I like, because especially like over the past few years, like not always, but like sometimes when I make tricks and work on them, I make them like for the sake of like I don't want to come up with tricks that are too difficult for me to do. Like I want my tricks to like, be interesting, yeah, and I want them to like maybe be sort of challenging in some aspects, but like there's no fun in trying to do this trick that's just like some impossible like hard mode type thing. So I feel like the way I want to like try to answer this briefly, but it's hard because it's such like a
No,
big
you can go
question,
into it
like,
as much as you want. Man.
yeah,
I
like,
think it's really interesting. I think it's like the main
yeah,
building blocks of good yo-yoing starts with like figuring out, and
for
that thing you
sure.
just said about like staying within your limits too is important. Because if you're trying to hit shit that you shouldn't be trying to hit, it's never going to.
It's not going to flow well. Yeah. Like, and like, I think like with the combos I specifically make, I focus on, again, it's kind of like what I just said, like my transitions and the way I like move the yo-yo between mounts, I don't want it to be anything too complex or challenging. Like a lot of my tricks, even in like my most recent freestyle, I would say the yo-yo is very closely knit to the mounts. Like if I'm doing a transition, it's like a thumb through or like a redirection. It's never anything too out of the ordinary, I would say. I don't really find myself doing a ton of like hand repositioning or like plucking in my tricks. I try to minimize that, especially because like when you're under pressure, whether it's on stage or even just trying to film a trick. Like I was filming a trick today and it's so difficult for some reason. It's like in those moments where you're like nervous or something or trying to hit a trick on camera, like it gets even harder to do those tricks. And like the more your hands are like making all these like minute, like small, like
once
movements,
you start
like
shaking the littlest bit on stage,
it's gonna just mess up the trick. Yeah. So I try to keep it simple in that regard. I guess like to summarize like all that, it's like to find like finding a good balance between tech and flow. I just try to make my tricks like simple for myself to do. I want them to be complex for sure, but I don't want them to be complex at the cost of it being something out of my own reach to do consistently.
That's really interesting. That's all. I like that. The purposely leaving certain elements out.
Yeah.
And like having something that you stick to, and that is how you build a style, a personal style. I feel like
exactly
like that
like,
kind of decision making is what makes you eventually stand out.
Yeah, I think after you yo-yo for a while, you kind of curate for yourself the tricks that feel best for you. And
absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. And like, because I don't really go out of my way to like watch trick tutorials anymore. I kind of
Me
just
too.
like my brain really just kind of picks and chooses stuff that I see, and then subconsciously it'll come out like 2 years later. end up
Dude,
like
same
copying
here.
some shit that I
Yeah.
saw that I don't even realize.
Hmm.
Also, I have an anecdote. I don't know if you guys have heard this before because you're talking about the shaking of the hands on stage. I don't know if this is true or not, and I would love for a commenter to let me know. But apparently, John Ando would like
Dude,
run several laps around his house.
I heard this as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
to
yeah,
like
yeah.
get himself like his heart
Like
rate up.
the adrenaline or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah,
I heard
yeah.
that super early on. I always thought that was really interesting.
Yeah,
I've heard like a few like interesting random anecdotes like that,
yeah,
and they like make sense. I personally don't apply any of them, but like
yeah.
it's interesting, especially like I don't know.
Heart
And
rate
I've
for sure. Yeah, heart rate
Yeah.
is like
yeah.
huge when you're on stage.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've heard about like beta blockers.
Yeah, some people use beta
Yeah.
blockers.
Like-
That's right.
I've never heard of yo-yoers doing that, but I believe it. That would be
Yeah.
funny. I know like
PEDs.
It's a
performers.
thing.
Yeah.
We gotta
Medicine
bust
PED type
the
thing.
top players
Yeah,
for using beta
honestly.
blockers.
Can you imagine if we started testing for weed? How many there? It would just be over.
It's like, yeah,
Um,
we spinal tapped Kai Zizin and he was on acid.
Yeah, that's what Brian and I were saying too, is like a lot of competition is who can somehow combat sweaty hands the best. Because like for
Dude,
me and
yeah.
him at least, like I have
Yeah.
and I refuse to wear gloves. And so like it's just so hard and it's so frustrating because if my hands were just bone dry, I could hit shit on stage, no problem.
Right.
But they
Well,
just aren't.
people have
like
that-
my body betrays me every time.
There's that like weird spray that people I've seen it at contests. I've seen like Gentry
Arid
using it.
XX. It's like Arid
Yeah.
XX or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm glad that was never like, I feel like early on someone told me like a good tip for it. I just never have had to do something different. It's like you just like wash your hands with hot and then cold water right after, and it like kind of just like something about killing the nerves. Like I've been doing that every time, and I've never had to deal with like sweaty hands on stage, which is I think I'm
Awesome.
lucky for that, honestly.
Yeah.
Maybe, but like I watch it, like, dude, it's so funny seeing like watching freestyles and like half the people just like I was watching Philly Nationals freestyles and like I think you guys were there. Like that venue was atrocious. It was incredibly hot inside. Like I'm glad I didn't compete that year because I would have just done horrible off that. And like I'm watching these freestyles and like people just have baby powder all over their shirts and pants. Like this is a horrible look, really. Like this does not look good at all. But you got to do what you got to do, I guess. And like I also can never wear gloves on stage. Like it doesn't feel comfortable for how I yo-yo.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't tried it in a while, but like you don't see
No,
many
you
technical players use gloves. Like it's just not
you
possible.
can't feel through them. That's the
Exactly.
thing. I don't care how
Yeah.
thin they are. You can't. You don't
Right.
have
It's
the
just
same
not the
feel.
same.
It's never gonna work for like tech stuff.
Yeah, like I would have to wear gloves every single time I yo-yo for like a year. In
Exactly.
order
You'd have to
like
be
get
used to it, really.
Yeah.
And I guess some people do that, but I don't know. It's just not for me.
I mean,
Go ahead, Trevor.
oh no, I mean Mickey. That's why we call him Mickey, right? Because he wore
Right,
white
yeah, 'cause the
gloves,
white
like
gloves,
Mickey
yeah.
Mouse. Yeah.
Pool gloves. One tidbit, Trevor, you said how you just pick and choose things to copy that subconsciously come out later.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is just something that some viewers might get something out of. Like, I don't watch tutorials either, and I very rarely learn move for move anyone's tricks. But
Yeah.
I'll watch like Curdy do something like a movement,
Mhm.
and I'll just literally try to copy that movement, or try to, if I'll see a mount that looks a certain way, and instead of learning the exact mount, I'll try to figure out something that looks similar. And
Yeah.
often that's where like I get some of my best things that I come up with are from like you're copying someone else, but you're not taking exactly what they're doing.
Yeah,
just
you're
taking-
doing your own interpretation.
It's like paraphrasing or something.
Yeah.
I do
very-
the same thing. I can relate. Like maybe it's hard for me to remember early on, but I feel like after I learned all of the basic tricks, I was never really like a watch tutorial, learn trick type of person. Like I can't, now that I think about it, like I don't think I've ever learned like a Kaplan tutorial or something along the lines of that. But
Yeah.
like similar to what you're saying, like when I like watch a yo-yoer and like I see an element or something, or like maybe a mount, I don't know, not
Yeah.
so much a mount, but like an element specifically that looks really cool.
Yeah.
I like try to emulate it for sure. Maybe like
Yeah.
not then, but like later on. And that's kind of like been my thing. Like kind of just try keeping a mental tab of like the tricks that look cool and tricks that I like. Because like you'll just like randomly do them somehow, like at some point even it's possible. Yeah, the whole like learning tricks thing is really interesting to me as a concept. I know like some people like really encourage others to like learn tricks, and it makes sense because like when you're like getting into yo-yo, like you should want to have like a pretty solid like repertoire of tricks that you know how to do.
Yeah.
But I feel like you can make an argument that at some point it's like maybe detrimental. I don't know. Like
Yeah.
maybe it's just like a personal thing, but I like kind of like discovering these tricks and like coming across them in my own ways. Maybe it's just like a like brain thing. I don't know. But
Yeah.
I was never really one to watch tutorials and learn them. I just thought I would agree there with you guys on that.
I think
Some
it's
people-
extremely important to learn from tutorials when you're like first starting out, just to like
Yeah, for sure.
give yourself like a wide bevy of like different types of tricks and just kind of figuring things out. But yeah, at a certain point, once you've discovered yourself more and more, there's diminishing returns on like watching tutorials. You're just kind of like,
Exactly.
all right, I mean, most of this I've already kind of seen before, or I might already do. And I'm also too lazy to finish the trick. I'll learn the first part maybe, and then just
exactly. I've been
take
there
that
too.
and stick it
Yeah.
somewhere else.
That's a
Yeah.
great point. I think people are constantly asking, how do you come up with tricks? And my answer is always the same, like do a trick wrong on purpose. But
Yeah.
what you're saying, like go to a tutorial and learn the beginning of it, the very beginning, the first two mounts, and then stop and then make up the rest, how it ends yourself. Like that's a
Yeah.
great like little exercise to try to be
For
creative
sure.
also. Because yeah, you do need the building blocks, you do need to learn stuff, but you never want to get locked into having a mindset of there being rules and like
Yeah.
specific ways things should be done with yo-yoing, because you're going to box yourself in so quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially when you like when you want to develop a style for yourself as well. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
because you can just get caught in the cycle of just like doing tricks the way other people think of them and do them. And I don't know. I like the
Well,
building block idea too.
Yeah.
To like build foundations.
I do think it's, although shout out to people, who is it, Tyler Shea? Doesn't he just like learn every Takeshi trick, like move for move?
He has been on that shit before. Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
Like Sean
yeah.
De Los Santos does it a lot too. Like he'll just
Yeah.
have Bergie combos and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
it makes like people do their thing. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something to be said for that. That's impressive. If I could do
Yeah.
one
That is
Takeshi
impressive.
Hunter trick,
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
but I
They're
do
hard tricks. Like
insane. But I'll just watch his Worlds freestyle, the one with the song, the Sean Paul one,
yeah,
and I'll
Yeah,
just
no
watch it
lie.
like 3 times in a row, and then I'll do what we were talking about and just try to pretend I'm Takeshi for a minute and yo-yo like him. And you find cool stuff when you start
do, yeah.
making everything a slack, like
Yeah.
every single movement's a slack. Like try to come up with a trick where you have a certain number of slack elements in it. Like you can make little exercises and games for yourself if you
Totally.
really need help being creative. Like I think it works.
Yeah. I was thinking earlier in the episode, I think it would be a fun exercise to do a tier list of the best second place worlds freestyles, because there's so many good ones. Like
Dude, there's a
Sebastian
lot.
Brock,
Yeah,
Takeshi.
Sebi.
Yeah.
Dude.
We gotta do that. That's a
Yeah,
great
well,
idea for an
Yeah.
episode. Just talk about the first place losers of the over the years. There's some good ones.
Oh, you'd be
Chris-
on there.
Yeah, I would be on there.
God, sorry.
True.
No, it's okay. That's why I feel a kinship with Bergie a little bit too. Even though he's
yeah.
1A,
Second place. Yeah.
1A, which is
Yeah.
way more impressive, but like still, we both sort of had nice second place freestyles. Drew Moriek asks, how has your approach to making tricks changed over the years? So from when you started
yeah,
back
that's a
in
good question.
Cleveland, yeah, like when did you
Yeah,
start feeling out your style?
You know, like, okay, so I feel like I was able to like, I feel like I've always sort of, at least like, okay, when I like started getting decent, like maybe 3 or like, yeah, a little over 3-ish years, I feel like the way I tried to yo-yo then is like not that far off from how I yo-yo now. Like my tricks were okay, like I was much worse, no doubt. But like I would kind of try to do tricks of similar density, like nothing too crazy technical, but I would try to like implement like slacks here and there and like have interesting mounts. I feel like for a while though, especially during like the scales, like try hard competitive timeline, I sort of like put that way of yo-yoing to the wayside and just focused on like doing the most optimal tricks, which like, you know, that's kind of just what I was into at that time. So I feel like starting again in like 2017, maybe it's kind of hard to map it by years, but like
Yeah.
I for a few years I like just wasn't really caring about making new tricks like that and making interesting tricks. And then probably like around the time I got on Unparalleled, I got bored of the way I was yo-yoing on stage and I wanted to change things up. And I started sort of developing like my own like real style again. And I feel like around like 2019 was when I started feeling like really, really good about the way I yo-yoed. Not to like be like come across as cocky or anything, but it pretty much like felt like it took me like 8 years to really like get a style that I was happy with, that I thought looked good and that I could like pull off in freestyles. Cause like before then I'd never really been a super creative player on stage. It was always kind of just me prioritizing like doing as well as I could. Um, so I think it just had a lot to do with like my goals and what I was caring about while I was yo-yoing for the time. Like I think like when I started getting like pretty creative, I was not competing as much. Like I was sort of opting to judge and help out with that aspect more. So it's not like I was thinking like, okay, I need to do tricks that will win me nationals, worlds, whatever. Like it was more so just like, let me just have fun and like see what types of tricks I can come up with. Um, I think it also like was influence from other players. Like around that time, like a few players had popped up that I thought were like insanely good, and it sort of pushed me to yo-yo like them and have these really interesting tricks. For instance, there's this guy on Unparalleled. His name is Tagyo Tetsuto Kato, and he's like, I swear, you can argue he's like the best 1A player. He took a break for a few years, but he like just posted a trick a few weeks ago, and like the
Yeah.
guy, like when you mentioned that like tech plus flow thing that guy asked earlier, like Tagyo is the epitome of that. You'll watch a trick of his, and still now, if you like watch like his earlier post from years ago in like 2019 or whatever, you'll watch it and he'll execute it perfectly and so well and like smooth, but you don't know what he's doing. Like the elements are just like hard to read. Like it's hard for me to like describe it better than that. But like
Right.
it's like when players like that come about, like it really like influences me to like, you know, level up and like not only make my yo-yoing look really good, but also like do tricks that are impressive. Um, and I think like, I don't know, especially with COVID being a thing and contests just not happening at all, I kind of just like went all in on making fun and unique tricks. And I feel like that like turned out pretty well. Um, and I guess now that contests are sort of coming back, I'm just working on getting those tricks consistent. So kind of sloppy answer, I guess, but
No,
I
that's
think,
awesome.
yeah, it kind of just depends on like what I'm feeling like perspective wise, and also like what the yo-yo atmosphere is like, for lack of a better term.
That makes perfect sense. And I like the COVID aspect too. I think a lot of players did similar things during COVID when they realized they
Yeah,
couldn't compete.
there's
I
no
think in
point
a
to
lot of
practice
way.
or anything. Like,
Yeah. But some tricks that you're seeing, I don't know. I think the quality of tricks for my taste has gone up probably since COVID, if I had to
yeah,
Yeah.
say. Because yeah, there's less motivation to just get clicks and more motivation
hmm
to impress people, which is great, I think.
and also like I feel like for me, like mentally, like right, I might kind of change again, but like right now, especially after like Chesapeake, I'm like kind of hyped on competition. And with that Chesapeake freestyle, like I had a goal of like doing these new tricks and style that I've been working on, and like finding a way to like show my style to a significant degree and not sacrifice and do. I didn't do like a horizontal trick. I didn't do a laceration combo. Like I pretty much wanted to prove a point that you can do unique tricks and like do well. So I'm really happy with my result of that contest, because it like
Yeah.
not only like felt like I accomplished something, but I kind of hope it's like a good, I don't know, I just hope it proves a good point and like kind of gives other players the inspiration that you don't have to just conform heavily, and that you should try to like be the best version of yourself and not just the best competitor in general.
I think he nailed it. And just from, I was a judge at Chesapeake, and from my standpoint, it's very rare that my favorite freestyle of the day is also the one that I thought won. But
Yeah, it's not common at all,
yours
really.
was both. So that was exciting for me, because it's like this was clearly a winning freestyle, and also it was my favorite one to watch, which just like never happens. So
Yeah, I
that's
just feel
great.
like, I feel like if you think about it, like I'm this is like the first time I thought of this point, so I may just be like completely wrong, but like I feel like since Zach competed consistently, there hasn't really been another player that went all in like he did and had such unique style and also was able to do well. And I'm definitely not on Zach's level with fully committing to my own style and doing it in freestyles, but like it's a point of inspiration to where like he did not sacrifice at all and he was able to do
Yeah.
so well. And I wish more players sort of took that risk and like implemented more of their own style into things and not just full competed. And again, like I think you could argue like scales did play a really big role in how people approach things. And I wish there was some way we could have like changed that, because I think it maybe is like a bit overboard the way some people approach competition. But I guess I say that to say like for now, like I just
Oh,
want to do freestyles that are both unique and capable, I guess, of doing well.
you're doing your part now to change it by doing
Exactly.
what you
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
So, and by talking about it here, I think a lot of people will take a lot from that, because it's a great point and a great
I think
idea.
inevitably the system was going to end up getting figured out one
I
way
was
or
gonna
another.
yeah. That's a
Yeah.
great point. I totally agree. Like someone was gonna blow things
Yeah.
up and sort of like I
Yeah.
think that's needed to happen.
If
Really.
not
Like
you, it would
where
have been someone else. Yeah.
exactly. I mean, and even like to kind of go back on that, like if we're being like technical, like Bergie and like Scales, we weren't really the ones to like invent this like absolute style of yo-yoing and doing tricks at the lowest level. It's just that we found there's the player that really was the like at least to us the first one to really yo-yo like that was Yusuke Otsuka. He doesn't compete anymore, but in like 2015 and 2016 he was a top competitor in Japan. He was known for having these super like majestic freestyles where he focused on doing like he was his like perspective was something about like not like cramming his freestyles with tricks and like presenting his tricks really well, and like through that he did like a bunch of really simple tricks that were easy to score. So we kind of like inherited that philosophy and like applied it to ourselves and try to like min max it or whatever and get the most out of it. But yeah, I just like I'm trying to think of like he was the one that was really like doing that first, and I was again I agree like someone would have figured it out at some point and abused
Yeah.
it, so it is what it is.
This is kind of a hot topic right now, cheating and yo-yoing. What do you think about, you don't have to get into the specifics of the guy who got disqualified
Yeah.
from Worlds, but do you think it's something, I mean, I guess it's only really possible in online contests.
Right.
So once we go back to in person, it's not really going to be an issue. But I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on it at all?
Yeah, I do. I think like for one, it's really difficult to identify if someone's actually cheating. That's my first point on things. Additionally, I think that like at scales we've always like talked about it, like what if someone just cheated, and like luckily from our contests we've ran, we've never had either someone we've thought was cheating or we've never had someone come to us and accuse someone of judging or of cheating, which is really lucky, honestly. And I'm thankful for that. And it's strange that it's happening frequently with online worlds because it's never really happened for us. Definitely makes me reluctant to run online contests though. I'll say that. But it's weird because like I feel like if you were to cheat for an online contest, for one, you have to do it really subtly and minimally. Like you can't just put your video at 150%. Like at some point, it's going to be clearly obvious that you're cheating, right? But it's the point where it's murky, like this instance of the player at Worlds this year. okay, let's say he's speeding up his video 102%. Let's say that he had like 5 extra seconds of his freestyle that he crammed in, and that's how he sped his video up, whatever. It's very like minimal, like I feel like you can't, if you were to feasibly cheat and try to get away with it, you're not going to get much more value out of it. It's only like a few more clicks, and I feel like you could just yo-yo faster and accomplish the same thing probably. And I feel like with that, it like getting those few more points, I guess it could make the difference between winning a contest or not. But like if you're good enough to do those tricks, you're good enough to do them in normal fashion and like do fine as is.
Right.
So it's like I think I don't want to call it dumb to do, because like clearly like I get why, like I get why someone would try to do it, because like they want to cram more in. But it's
Yeah.
just like it's such like, to me it's such a small difference. Like, or at least like thinking like base level, like if you're only getting a few more seconds, like I just feel like it's not worth it, because like it's just hella suspicious. Like I still don't know if that guy cheated or not. Like the video looks sus as hell, like don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
it's just like I don't know. I think like if you're doing something like that and like trying to win, more than likely enough you're good enough to do that well already, and you might as well just like play
Yeah.
normally. But
I
again,
agree with you.
it's all speculative, so what do I
It
know?
does
Like,
seem pointless to do.
yeah.
And his in particular would be such a long con, because all his posts he goes like insanely fast pretty
Yeah.
much. And like I have seen yo-yoing in person where I'm like having a hard time comprehending how
Right.
it's happening so fast. So it does happen every couple of years. Someone pops up who just like breaks out a
Mhm.
little bit and goes faster than you've ever seen.
Right.
With
I
5A,
remember
it
Because
even
they're
looks
in
speeding
recent
up real
memes.
life. They're cheating.
yeah.
Yeah.
With it looks
Something more
especially
serious
comical
here.
with 5A because you got the counterweight going too. So
Yeah,
it looks
it
Oh
just looks
yeah.
wonky,
it looks
right?
extra insane. But I mean, if your string's short enough, you can do it.
It's possible, right? Like
Yeah.
it is possible to yo-yo that fast. So
It's
I
like
don't know.
unlikely, but possible. And it just seems unlikely, like you said, that you would take such a risk like that for a tops of like 5 seconds of extra tricks. Like,
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense, because like let me check to make sure. Like the thing that he got, like it was his prelim, I think, that they thought he was cheating in, and like that's what he got DQ'd from. But the thing is, like, he won prelims with that prelim, and I think let's say that he did cheat with that prelim and he won prelims, right? Which he did. The one part, not the cheated part, for sure. I can't comment on that. But like if he hadn't cheated, what happens? You get second place, maybe. Like, what's the difference? Like, you're still making
right.
finals, you're still placing very high. It just doesn't make sense to me to like do all of that for such a literally no, it makes no difference. This is an online contest. It's not like him winning prelims has any merit, really. It's just a bunch of judges sitting at home. It doesn't matter that he goes last, like any of that. So it just seems like a strange thing to do. So I like I don't know if I'll ever know like what the verdict is on if he actually did that or not. But to me, it just doesn't really make sense to bother.
I guess we'll know when he shows up to a contest and yo-yo's fast as fuck
Right.
in everyone's
Yeah.
faces. And it's just
I'd
vindicated.
love to see it, honestly, because
That would
like
be
the
cool as
guy's
hell.
insane at 5A. Like
Yeah.
it's also puzzling to me, because like this guy would have just probably been a top 3 player at the contest, like regardless of this scandal or whatever you want to call it. Like it's just weird.
It's like Deflate Gate.
Yeah,
Yeah, we need to
it's
come up with a
some
name. 5-8 free something gate.
Countergate.
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 Oh my
Yeah,
god.
that's it. There you go. Countergate. God damn. Yeah, who knows? I'm excited to see see him in person. I hope he can make it to a contest sometime. Make it to Worlds next year,
Yeah,
maybe.
he'll probably compete at Worlds next year or something. Yeah.
I haven't seen the video in question, but if we're talking about an extremely fast 5A player, I think I know who the player is. I think
It's
I
not
follow
the
him on
Korean
Instagram.
kid. It's not the Korean kid.
Oh, really?
It's the Vietnam. It's a Vietnamese kid that's on. They're actually on the same team. And yeah, that
Oh.
Korean kid also is extremely fast. Like
Yeah.
again, it's like
It's
it's
these
just
things
hard,
are
man.
possible.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's tricky.
I feel kind of bad for him, but at the same
Yeah,
time,
it's a weird
May-
situation, man.
maybe-
I don't know.
I like it's easy to say like we'll just do the thing they asked you and give them the raw files and yo-yo do
Right.
your freestyle in front of a clock. But like if he's not lying, I would honestly be in the same boat as him and be like, fuck you, I'm not doing shit.
Yeah, it's
Like-
on both sides. Like for one, like I understand and I just feel bad for both sides. Like
Yeah.
I would hate to have to deal with some shit like that for a scales contest. Like again, like that, like this situation, even if he didn't do it, it definitely makes me hesitant to like run another contest because it's just like whack to do something like that. And again, like the things that the contest organizers had to go through, like these extra methods, it's like no one wants to spend the time to figure this shit out. Like Quogon doesn't want to film again, I'm sure, because he probably filmed his prelim hundreds of times or something. Online Worlds is already having to deal with a bunch of videos and all of this other optics of their contest, and they probably don't want to spend the extra time figuring out his video. And also the methods they're using, it's not really like you can exactly fully prove that he's cheating anyways. It's just a mess for everyone. Like,
Yeah.
I don't
It's
know.
not some big, it's not like the NFL where like you can
Right. Yeah.
employ this insane software to see if he was cheating or not. It's like,
Exactly.
it's just, it's a yo-yo contest. Everyone's doing this because they're passionate about yo-yo. No one's making money
Right.
off of it. It's just,
Exactly.
yeah.
Tough situation, but yeah, thanks for your insight. That's interesting. Before we get back to and get into Unparalleled, I just want to do a couple eBay yo-yo game here.
Hell
I'm
yeah.
gonna show you. We're gonna do Duncan yo-yo since he used to be on Duncan. I should
Okay.
see if any Unparalleled yo-yos have ever been sold on eBay. I'll check that. But for the meantime, here is a Duncan yo-yo. It's the Mosquito. Do you remember the Mosquito, Colin?
I do, of course.
A little bit. Yeah, that was kind of a cool one. It's the Duncan
Oh, the
Crew
Duncan
Worldwide.
Crew Worldwide. That's hard,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah,
I had
the
to like guess the
members-
value of this. Is that the game?
how much it sold for.
Oh, how much
yeah,
it
so
sold for?
it actually sold
Ooh.
online. So what do you think that mint and package, but still not like it's not like it's a freehand or
Mosquito,
something.
but it's still Duncan Crew edition.
Yeah. So Trevor, what do you
Shit.
think?
$150.
Trevor's played this game before, so he knows some wild
Wow,
ass
I
shit.
used to guessing.
Some wild
I
ass
was-
shit happens sometimes.
I was gonna say like 80. I don't know though. What's it like?
$80. All right. You guys are both a little high. This thing sold for $40.
Okay, I was
Okay.
gonna say paying 150 for that is crazy.
No, but
80
he's
is, like-
he's not as crazy as you think, because some of these are the yo-yo
I
jams and
bet,
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
no,
sell
a
for-
Dark
remember seeing
Magic
some of
2
those other
sold for
ones.
like,
The Dark Magic 2 that sold for like almost $300. It's just insane.
not even the good one.
Yeah.
The shitty second version.
I wonder if let's see if I can find an Unparalleled. Nah.
Probably nothing rare or anything. that
Yeah,
you
just
would
like
find
Yo-Yo
interesting on
Sam
there.
stuff.
Mhm.
All right. Let me find another one here. Try to find a good one. While I'm looking, look what Tyler got me from
Is
Yo-Yo
that
Expert. It's an original Dark Magic. It's the Yo-Yo
that's
Nation.
crazy. They still have those?
Yeah.
Whoa.
That's
Yo-Yo
actually
Nation
wild.
Europe edition.
Oh,
Blue with gold
damn.
rims.
It's a
So
find.
fucking sick. Yeah. I'm beyond stoked on that. Come on, let's get a good one. Let's get a weird one. Huh. Those fucking cold fusions they keep or like the bi-metal like bumblebees and shit that Duncan is making right now. Has anyone played with one of those?
No, I haven't.
I haven't either.
Interesting though.
They're making like
yeah.
modernized bumblebees.
Yeah, they're like
It's like
metal,
bimetal and stuff.
but they're
Huh.
like super slimline. It makes no sense. But they look interesting. All right, I'm gonna find a free hand. That's my only hope for something crazy here. Whoa. $50 throw monkey. That's insane. Mm. Fucking throw monkey. What was your favorite Duncan yo-yo when you were on the crew?
Probably Barracuda. That was like maybe still the best yo-yo they've ever made. Honestly, the first one. I think
The
that was their
one-drop
first. Yeah, I was gonna say I think it was
Yeah.
their first yo-yo they made at one drop. Maybe not that. Might have been.
I think
Um,
so.
It was
Yeah.
quite expensive. It was like $120. Super
Yeah.
nice yo-yo though. Like, and that yo-yo came out over a decade ago, and it's still very good. I bet.
Yeah.
Barracuda. I think I have one
They've
of
made
the
a bunch of
newer
versions
Barracudas.
since
Yeah, I
then,
have like a
yeah.
Barracuda X or something like that. But it
Mhm.
really is good. It plays like a Japanese yo-yo.
Yeah, even
like,
the new ones are great.
Insanely good. All right, this is a sick freehand zero. It's Enyo,
Oh,
and it's the Triad edition, which is like a Japan only release, which I've never even seen.
I've actually never
before.
seen that one. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
neither have I.
Mint and package. There were 8 bids. What do you think that sold for? It's purple glittery Enyo. It's so beautiful.
I'll say $30.
I was gonna say like 100. Honestly, yeah, I don't know.
30 and 100. It sold for $82.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, I was gonna
Which
say
is a lot, but also
I've
not.
never seen that one.
That seems
yeah.
the correct price to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's reasonable. Dude,
Yeah.
speaking of, look what else Tyler got me.
Whoa.
It's the Russian yo-yo store, Gyroscope, and it's an orange.
They've had so many editions of these. What the hell?
Dude, apparently there's only like 150 of these, but it's glow in the dark too. So
Oh, it's like orange glow in the dark.
It glows.
I've actually
green,
never seen a glow in
but
the dark freehand zero. What?
Yeah, I don't know if I have either. Dude, he brought it over to my house, and then we were turning off the lights from the podcast, and it was just glowing, and we were like, "Holy shit, look at it!" It was sick.
That's actually I didn't even. I've only seen like the opaque freehand zeros and like the translucent ones. I've never seen the glow in the dark one. That's a trip.
And this shade of orange is unique too.
Yeah,
it's
new.
It's like peach ring colored. Dude, I'm so happy.
It's a really good color.
Got Jake Maloney on the back. Love it. Classic.
Okay.
Yeah, so at some point you leave recess and you go straight to Unparalleled, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I tested the waters for a little bit, but yeah, a few months later I joined Unparalleled.
And Unparalleled was like a fairly new company when you joined, right? Maybe a year or two old.
Yeah, they're like around that.
And yeah, what went into that decision, and what's it like working with them now?
Yeah, I think like at some point on recess I just realized like it maybe like wasn't the like best fit for me with regards to like what I sort of valued as a yo-yo player. Specifically like I guess the actual yo-yo releases and other stuff. It just like it wasn't really my thing, and I realized like maybe I should just like go somewhere else. I think with Unparalleled, I did like it wasn't like an instant thing. I wanted to see like what else was out there in case like there's another brand that would make more sense. But going to Unparalleled kind of made sense just because I had known Tyler for a while, like a year or so. And I knew that he designed yo-yos that I liked. And not only that, but I feel like me and him like have a kind of similar, not philosophy, but like appreciation of yo-yoing at a larger scale. Like he himself like is really like nerdy about specific yo-yo players and things of that nature. And I feel like I was able to sort of like relate to him a bit more with regards to that. And I also always saw Unparalleled as like him being a really, really talented designer, but not really having the other aspects figured out as well, like socials and whatnot, and like other things of that nature. So I thought it would be cool for me to like join the team and sort of help him out with, growing that aspect of the brand and getting other people in on the team and whatnot to sort of make things a higher scale. So I joined at the end of 2017, sort of as a sponsored player, and also like with the premise of me involving myself with socials and things like that to sort of like help him out. Um, and I've been on the team for I guess like 5 years now, and it's been just as great as since I joined. I feel like it's like a perfect sponsor for me. He has been nothing but like super what's the word? Just super accommodating for me. Like I am very, very thankful to like have him. I feel like he just like has a good taste for designing yo-yos. Um and in addition to that, like he kind of just like is very selfless when it comes to how he approaches the brand. Um, he always like does what he can to help me out if I want to get to a contest or anything along the lines of that. And also just super open-minded in general with regards to like just anything with regards to a yo-yo company. And yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, he's been on fire with the releases lately. There's
Yeah,
so much stuff coming out.
yeah, we and then, like I have like a whole case of just like prototypes for yo-yos that we haven't even released yet. So I feel like this year,
Wow.
like we've probably released 3 yo-yos, maybe about to be 4 this next month, but like we have like 4 or 5 yo-yos that are dropping next year that are just ready to go that I'm really hyped about. So things are moving
So there
fast and I'm
there
hyped
is there's stuff on the horizon. I'm sure
for
people will be
sure.
excited to hear that.
Yeah,
Even though you just had a huge release with the motif.
motif, right? Yep.
What is like directly next? Do you have any idea, or can you say
Yeah, I can say
what's
it.
next step?
Next month we're releasing a signature yo-yo for Park Jun Song. He's like one of the newer players on the team, super talented player from Korea. I'm trying to think of like sort of like more to say about that. um I think Park Jun Song is like an excellent player. When we sponsored him early last year, it's funny. I guess this isn't really related to the release, but like it's just interesting to me.
Yeah.
We sponsored him. He was originally on the YJ Yo-Yo Korean team, and he like showed interest in joining Unparalleled, which is crazy to me because I thought he was a super talented player. At the time, he had like a very very slack heavy style, but the way he yo-yoed and like approached the like online freestyles that I saw of him, like I knew he was very methodical and smart, and that he could be like not only like a really really talented yo-yo player in terms of like wow his tricks are sick, but also like insane at competition. For what I've seen from him, he's like super consistent, and like ever since he's joined the team, he's just become like a very very like all around competitor that's super good. Got top 3 in online worlds both this year and last year. I think he got second at both of the scales online contests we've ran in the past few years. I guess I say a lot to say like I'm really excited to see him on stage at actual competitions because I think he can be like a world's contender.
Nice.
So yeah, that's next, his signature yo-yo.
All right. What do you are in charge pretty much of picking the team, right? For the most
Yeah,
part.
and also like I want to be like I just like I have like impacts on like who joins the team, and I also want to be like sort of like a relatable person for team members to reach out to if they like just like need advice or like
Right.
perspective on stuff like that.
Is there anything, I'm sure people will want to know, like what it is you
Yeah.
look for in a player?
Yeah, that's a good
Uh,
question. Um, I think that, and this is actually like a Tyler thing. His thing has always been like he wants to sponsor players that like when you watch them yo-yo, you're like inspired and you're like you like want the yo-yo they're using. It's like a very like unique feeling. But I guess like my way of seeing it is like I look at players who I think either are incredibly talented already and like have a defined style or something they have figured out to make them like the player they are, or players that have like immense potential that I know like if they keep yo-yoing will be like one of the best players in the future. um I think compared to like a lot of the newer yo-yo companies, we generally are more like just straight up yo-yo focused and not as much as like the other aspects. That's not to say like we won't sponsor any type of yo-yo, or like some of the yo-yos we sponsor are incredibly creative and not competitors at all. But and again, I also like we won't sponsor people or just whack people in general. Like I want like the person I'm adding to the team to be a good person, probably above anything else, of course.
Right.
But yeah, I think it's a big thing on like having a style or having some aspect of your yo-yoing that's special. And I feel like probably a lot of sponsors or people would say something like that. But I do think that like I think the people that know, but like I think a lot of people don't recognize it. Like if you look through the Unparalleled roster, there's like a lot of really good underrated players, and that's kind of always been a thing of ours too. It's like we don't really care if the player is like incredibly popular or anything like that. It's just more of like a thing of like recognizing talent and wanting to support that talent and foster it. Um, yeah, I guess that's about all I can say with regards to that.
Yeah, it pays off. Like I didn't know who the motif dude was
Yeah,
until
Daniel's been
like
on the team since the
yeah.
jump, and he's just insane. Like,
Yeah. I think that's a perfect example of someone that you helped promote a bit and get out
mhm.
there more, because I certainly it brought my attention to him.
Yeah, he's incredible.
So I guess we can end with like scales. Anything in the future? You said you're a bit reluctant now to run a contest, but so there's no
Yeah.
plans set in stone at all for anything.
Yeah, there's no hard plans right now. I think that we've kind of talked about things here and there recently. I think um I won't say that like we're definitely never gonna run an online event again, but I am personally as kind of like the one that is relatively in charge of how things are handled with that. I really want to run another in-person event above anything else. I think those are really fun, and yo needs more of them lately. So hopefully, it's hard to say just because it's a very big undertaking, but I'd like to run some in-person event next year. Maybe we'll see. Again, it's just kind of very speculative. And I think like online contests, um, I think they still like serve a really good purpose for yo-yoing, despite all of the like weird like aspects of what's been happening with them recently, like the whole cheating thing and things of that sort. It's just true that there are a lot of players that are like still interested in that aspect and they don't have the resources to actually compete.
Right.
So I'd like to still run another online contest one day. There's just no hard plans really. I think right now we're kind of just like chilling with scales. There's not like, again, no hard plans. We do have like a collab in the works that I'm pretty hyped about. I think you tried the yo-yo maybe at Chesapeake.
I was gonna
um
bring that up. Yeah, you got a
yeah,
really cool yo-yo coming soon.
so like there's that. We just released a colorway on the Monarch from Dressel Designs, another sick yo-yo. um I'm kind of like trying to figure out what I want to do next with scales, if it's something besides running contests. We'll just have to see. I think now that my life is a bit more stable, I just have a job and I don't have any like additional responsibilities with regards to school or anything. It's more feasible for me to do something with scales. But only time will tell.
I would love another in-person contest. That was one of my favorite contests, the one you guys
Yeah, it was
threw.
super fun. Reopen.
And I'm always a proponent for more yo-yo content. If you want to get the podcast going again, I will
Yeah,
listen
man.
because
I was thinking about it honestly. We'll have to see.
yeah, that would be sweet. I have my scales recog here. Is this what you used at Chesapeake recognition?
Yeah, that yo-yo. Yep.
So that's still like your main
Yeah,
yo-yo basically.
it's I was like using different yo-yos in preparation for the contest since I haven't competed in like 2 years.
Yeah,
And it's funny, I'm like practicing on these like different yo-yos. I was using two bimetals. One of them was the Cog Light, which
inevitable,
is
right?
like no,
Oh,
I
okay.
practice with Unparalleled yo-yos, but like
Oh, right on.
one is the Cog Light, which was like the last sig that we released. It's just like
Yeah,
a bimetal version of that yo-yo. And another is like this prototype that we just have that I don't think we're gonna release, but it's like an outer ring yo-yo. And like I'm using these yo-yos and I'm trying to convince myself they're like better, but I just like can't hit my tricks on them for some reason. So I'm like, why don't I just try recog again? And like as soon as I started practicing that yo-yo, I just hit all my tricks very easily, which is just cool that that yo-yo is still so reliable after a few years. I think for New York States, I might compete. I'm thinking about it. Um, I'll either use Recog or this yo-yo, which I got like last week.
Ooh, hell yeah.
And Yeah, this yo-yo is like insane. It'll be
Delrin
my
with stainless steel rings, right?
yep, yeah, and that'll be my
Nice.
next signature. It should come out next year sometime. We've been
That
working on
looks
this
sick.
yo-yo since like 2019, so I'm glad it's finally ready to go.
Damn, that would be sick. Plastic
Mhm.
yo-yo. You can win New York States, maybe.
Yeah, we'll
The
see.
new proto. Hell yeah, dude. Well, thank you so much. I'd love to have you on again just to talk.
I'd love to
We
as
can
well,
talk
man.
yo-yoing
Thanks for
more.
having me.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it was a really good one. So I'm gonna peace out, guys.